The Toronto Blue Jays could not pull out a series win, but some bigger questions on the horizon. Rest versus rust going into the playoffs. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. What's been up with him?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. As always, I'm Braden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well. Our main Twitter account, @LockedOnJays. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok, @LockedOnBlueJays. And if you're new here to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. It's free. You might as well do it. You get your shorts, your podcasts, the live streams, the videos, the whole ordeal. So hit that sub button if you have it. You guys have been killing it lately. Shout out to all of you. Some of the comments have been just fantastic. And a lot of that we're going to get into on today's episode, including some Vladimir Guerrero Jr. talks. There are a lot of people talking about Vladdy right now, and we're going to give our little bit of a take on it, as it's sort of been a little bit of a saga for myself talking about Vladdy and what he's been able to do in the clutch, what he's been able to do just game to game, sort of how far away is he? I know Carter's got a quote on that one. Rest versus rust. It's been a topic of conversation here on the podcast that me and Carter keep going like, oh, we'll talk about it. We'll get into it. Today's the day. We're going to talk about it, because if this team avoids the wild card, what does that mean? What can it mean? Is it good? Is it not good? What's going to come out of that? Obviously, going to talk a little bit about the game and, of course, the series preview as well heading into the weekend. Carter, my man, I guess let's just start with the game. We'll get into this. Will sort of lead us into the Vladdy and rest versus rust stuff. So let's start with the game. Flat out, not a good one.
Again, the offense not showing up whatsoever. Shane Baz looked like he was about to win a Cy Young this year. It looked like he was going down to the wire and just battling his butt off. Looked unbelievable. The fastball was disgusting. Like, it hit 99 multiple times throughout this game. It just didn't look like the Toronto Blue Jays had a chance throughout this entire game, even going back to the second game. Just looking at the series in totality from an offensive perspective, like, you scored 9 runs in a 4-game series. 6 of those runs came in one game. You still managed to get another win somehow out of the series. So I don't know if this is like an offensive problem, or this is where I'm starting to lean towards. It's just the Toronto Blue Jays, we've run over this before, and the last time they played the Tampa Bay Rays, they just don't play the Tampa Bay Rays well whatsoever, and they really have not for the last 10 seasons. They're 3-7 against the Tampa Bay Rays in this entire year. They've already won the series against the Yankees. Obviously, they don't play the Yankees anymore. They've had that in the books in like mid-August. Same with the Red Sox. The Orioles, it depends really year by year, but the Tampa Bay Rays, like the Toronto Blue Jays, haven't won a season series against the Tampa Bay Rays since, I believe, 2017. So it's been a very long time since the Toronto Blue Jays have won a series against the Tampa Bay Rays. And this has been one of those reasons why, when you looked at the schedule, it wasn't that, oh my God, the Rays are this, juggernaut. It's, oh no, we know how the Blue Jays play against the Rays, whether they're the best team in the league or the worst team in the league. So it's always going to be a cause for concern. So for me, I think a little bit of this is like the Rays just having the Toronto Blue Jays number. But in your mind, with 9 games left now in the regular season, is this a cause for concern offensively, or is this just one of those random stretches where you start to falter, or is it more of a Tampa Bay Rays thing where they just have the Toronto Blue Jays number?
So in this case, I think it is a Tampa Bay Rays thing a little bit. Sometimes it's just a team's got your number, and that is what it is. But in my head, I was asked this when I went onto a show, what's the one thing you're probably the most concerned about heading into the playoffs? And to be honest with you, I know exactly probably what the bullpen is going to give you, right? It's probably not going to be unbelievable, but it's going to fare okay in a series. You're starting pitching, you know what you're getting. But the offense in the playoffs, it's been a question, for the last 5 years of what's this team going to deliver? Will the offense show up, or will the lights be too bright? That's the one thing I'm really worried about. We've seen stretches with this team where they go on this massive heater offensively, and you're thinking, oh my God, it's one of the best offenses in the league. But then for 4 games, they're not very good. So it's, what are we going to get when you get into a playoff series? If you're bad for 3 games, that's it. You're done. See you later. But if your offense is cooking, you maybe can carry that forward. But I'm just not sure. It's baseball. You're not sure what you're going to get every day. I am a little bit concerned with this offense. And again, you're missing Bo Bichette, right? Who is a big driver of this offense. Anthony Santander, if he comes back, will be an interesting move to see how that all plays out. This isn't the complete offense here, but at the end of the day, I'm a little bit concerned. But for this specific loss and the 2 losses against the Rays here, and just the lack of offense, I think that is just more of a, I don't know, baseball is what it is type of thing. But I for the looking ahead to the playoffs, I'm definitely concerned.
Well, and before the playoffs, say no matter whether this team gets a bye, if they make the wild card, whatever, the last series of the year is against the Tampa Bay Rays, and we've seen a lot of times with playoff baseball teams, it's not about the record. The record is completely scrapped once you get to the playoffs. It's who's playing good baseball, who is a hot team in the league right now. And then when we look at this, we look at the Toronto Blue Jays back in May and June. Maybe it was closer to July, whenever that big win streak was. Obviously, you guys were a part of it. This sweep against the New York Yankees, one of the best times of the season. It felt like nobody could beat the Toronto Blue Jays. Whereas now this team is still very good. But are they the hottest team in baseball right now? Like, definitely not. You could argue the Cleveland Guardians, who are outside of the playoffs right now, who have just swept the Detroit Tigers and have won 7 in a row after selling at the trade deadline. That's a team that is one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. You look at the Phillies on the other side of the bracket; they're a very good team right now. The Seattle Mariners, another team that has beginning to catch flames a little bit down the stretch as well. So that bodes for concern a little bit for me as well. It's just the momentum that you carry into a playoff series, and having the Tampa Bay Rays, which the Toronto Blue Jays just don't play well traditionally, as the last game of the year, whether it matters or doesn't matter for the Toronto Blue Jays. From a momentum standpoint, I don't love that, as you know, you're playing your team rival, the team that I just despise playing the most because it never seems to go well. If you're just looking for the vibes to be at the highest point going into the playoffs, the Tampa Bay Rays is probably the worst case scenario for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you. It is crazy though. I said I did want to talk a little bit about the standings too, and you sort of brought up Cleveland and how they're making a push for the playoffs here. It does, in my head right now, I'm looking, the Blue Jays are 4 wins above the Detroit Tigers. They're 4 wins above the New York Yankees. Could be swapped, I guess, depending when
It
you
could
guys
be
listen to
3,
this.
and then the tiebreaker would make it 4. I got some magic number stuff that I'll go into after.
Perfect. But yeah, you know what? In the back of my head, again, for all the complaining we do and, this team isn't getting the job done against the Tampa Bay Rays, well, they're first in the AL. Like, it's hard. It really is hard to nitpick things, even though this isn't, I guess, not a nitpick. But it's hard to really say anything super bad about them right now because they're doing so well and they have a very, very solid shot to have a bye in the playoffs. And this will take us into the rust conversation. But yeah, Carter, at the end of the day, your offense needs to be better. And when you're talking about playing the Tampa Bay Rays right before the playoffs, it is all momentum. And that's something me and you've had many conversations about, right? It's how are you playing at the time of the playoffs starting? It's a long season, a lot of up and downs, a lot of hills. How are you playing right before? Can that carry you in? I think that's a massive one. And just talking about how this team cannot beat the Rays, yeah, I might be a little bit more concerned around that time.
Well, and this is what some reason for some cause for concern. And this is why that, like on this podcast, we've kind of been alluding to the fact that this team's a shoe in for the playoffs. Like, things would have to go drastically bad, but we've never really alluded to that for the AL East. This is like you just kind of did here on the podcast a little bit, but just now looking at the standings, just looking at even the 2-game stretch that this team is going on. Again, you guys will know if the New York Yankees have beaten the Baltimore Orioles. We're doing this at it would be 7:20 p.m. Eastern time, so we don't know what the result is, but this could be as far down as the Toronto Blue Jays are 3 games up in the standings, 4 with the tiebreaker. But the Toronto Blue Jays magic number, I'm just going to assume the Yankees win this game just to make things a little bit easier. But the magic number is still 6. So that requires the Toronto Blue Jays have 9 more games. If they go 6-3, it doesn't matter what the Yankees do. Like, they will be the winners of the American League East. But now, like, you have 9 games left in the schedule. Say you should be able to go 5-4. That's not like crazy whatsoever. Again, the Yankees are only able to lose 1 game at that point. But if you have another series like this, where maybe you lose a series, or maybe like one series doesn't go according to plan, the New York Yankees sweep one series, things look a whole lot different. Like, say in this, for example, we'll use this example right now. The Blue Jays lose to the Royals and the Yankees sweep that series. It's 1 game. And there's 6 games left. I know there's tiebreakers technically too, but that is a whole lot closer and a whole lot different of a scenario, especially with the Yankees playing the White Sox and the Orioles, with the Toronto Blue Jays playing the Red Sox, who are in the playoffs, at least right now, aren't playing the greatest brand of baseball, but then they play the Rays again. So things can go way out of whack very quickly. And the way the Toronto Blue Jays, again, kind of save us from going down that way is to continue to win baseball games. There's like, it's not like there's the rest of the schedule is the craziest thing of all time. Yes, there are some competitive teams. Like the Royals aren't bad. The Rays aren't bad either. And they give the Jays trouble. And the Red Sox aren't a bad team, still on, in that third wildcard spot in the playoffs, but they're definitely teams that you can't just roll over. So the Toronto Blue Jays are going to have to continue to play good baseball. And as much as they are in a good spot, if you lose a couple games in a row here, and like you said, if all it takes is a couple games, this could be a whole lot more of a sticky situation than we were in even 3-4 days ago.
Yeah, Carter. And that's why, when we have the conversation on when we talk rest versus rust in the second segment here, I don't think they're in a position to start doing that right now. You can't hold Dalton Varsho out for 2 games because of a minor inconvenience. You can't let Vlad have a day off because you need all of these guys to make sure that you secure this spot above the Yankees, because we will get into how much of a difference a little bit of a break could make for this ball club. So you're right. It's a little concerning. But Carter, the other thing I want to get into sort of in regards to this game will be just the pitching staff in general, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. And but I mean, the offense was the biggest conversation coming out of these last 2 games here. You needed the Blue Jays to do more, and they just didn't. And that stems from one guy for a lot of people, and that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. not doing necessarily what he needs to do. And I've been up and down, back and forth on this. Beginning of the season, I came in and said, Vlad's just not that guy in the 8th or 9th inning that's going to go out there and give you the massive hit. Then sort of, I looked at the numbers and I broke everything down of how he does in 8th and 9th innings. And he does. He performs very well in those situations. But the problem for me here is that it's not the double down the line. It's not the solo shot. It's not the 3-run bomb. It's like maybe a single RBI through the infield that he gets on base. And that's what it feels like more and more lately. And obviously Vlad's having some timing issues. I don't know. There's a lot that's going on here with Vlad. He's pretty much hitting what looks like down on the baseball. And that obviously goes into timing problems. And when Vlad's at his best, he's hitting line drives, right? The line drive home runs, that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But this is just not it right now. And this is a guy that you need to figure it out for the playoffs. If Vlad's not showing up, are you putting all your eggs in the basket of George Springer and hoping that he can single-handedly? I don't want to say single-handedly. His team plays very well. But you need another guy that can be those big situations, those 3-run shot here and there that you need that can change a ball game. And it can't just be George Springer in the leadoff spot.
See, when we look at Vladdy, like it's such recency bias with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Because as soon as this guy has like 4 games, that's all it takes. Like if he has 4 bad games in a row, it's like, oh, this guy sucks. And that's what everyone says. And they start drawing on the power numbers. They'll start drawing on just the very specific stats that don't bode well for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But there is, again, I can't completely dismiss people's criticisms with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because this is a guy that should wake up, roll out of bed, hit 30 home runs, drive in 100, come up and with big clutch at bats. Like he should do this in his sleep because we've all seen it happen. We see the raw power he possesses. We know what the upside is if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can put it all together, but that's been the biggest problem is that it seems like he cannot figure out how to put it all together. And this is kind of like just even over the last 7 games, I wanted to go over his last 7-game stretch here. He's 7 for 26, which isn't horrible. It's 269 average, but it's the OPS and like the slugging that you're worried about here. It's a 367 on base percentage, which is very good. Not really going to complain about that, but the slugging is 269. That's an OPS that is just over 600 for a guy that I'm not even going to bring up the contract, but just for a guy that you need to be in the middle of your order, the guy that's hitting 3, a guy that, again, in these big scenarios, that's the guy traditionally that you would want to come up in a playoff stretch where you don't have Bo Bichette. And maybe this is why it's getting exposed a little bit more, is because the pressure really is on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. The series that you don't have Bo Bichette, he goes, like he kind of just rolls over. He goes 3 for 17. He has 1 RBI throughout the entire series. And for a very important series, they're only going to get more and more important down the stretch. It is a little bit of a cause for concern. And you brought it up as well, is that a lot of these numbers, when you look at them just off the top, they're not necessarily bad, but let's say he'll come up with the bases loaded and they could be down 3 runs. Yeah, maybe he gets an infield single and keeps the lineup going. But if you have 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th and you're down 3 runs, like you don't really want the infield single if you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the plate. Like you want him to do more damage, and that's the biggest problem with Vladdy is just doing damage in those bigger scenarios and doing damage in general. It's just that's everyone's critique with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is that he doesn't get the big hit when it's needed. And he doesn't get like the power stroke when it's needed per se, because he can get that, much needed single. He can like do a job. But when you want him to blow a game open, that hasn't really been what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been doing in the situations that he's been putting himself in.
Yeah, and you know what? I've seen a lot of guys on Twitter Twitter and TikTok lately that are talking that go into the numbers. And they're like, well, he does do this. He does do this. It's like, when have you in recent memory seen Vladimir Guerrero Jr. go up there in a 2-run ball game with runners on 1 and 2, hit a double down the line to score both of them?
Like, if anything, he's like the starting single, or like he's the first guy to get walked normally, or like maybe he's the guy that comes up, it's a 2-run game and there's no outs and the guy on first and he gets walked as well. So again, he's not like hurting the team. It's not like he's getting out or anything.
No, exactly.
It's just when you have your superstar, the guy that, again, you're paying all this money with Bo Bichette out, your other superstar, still have some other guys that are going to contribute, but you want that guy to be the guy that's winning your game. You don't want him to set it up for somebody else, even though the rest of the team has been unbelievable at, picking up the slack for each other. But you have a guy that is so good, you want him to kind of flourish, and you want him to be that guy that's going to go out there and win you baseball games. Not necessarily like the Jonathan Clase or, the Miles Straw going in. Yes, that's fun, but you'd rather it be the face of your franchise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we want to hear what your guys' thoughts on this are too, because there are people are throwing it all around. There's some people that are completely Vladimir Guerrero Jr. defenders. There are some people that absolutely can't stand him at the plate. And Carter, I think me and you, and I hate to be this guy, but we're sort of in the middle, because we do see what he is able to do and what this team has been able to do. But in the same vein, it's like, yeah, we need this guy to break open a game once in a while. But so I don't know. Let us know what you guys think.
I got one more thing that kind of goes into like what we've been talking about, is a lot of the time with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., people are going to bring up the playoff stats. I know there isn't like the massive sample size, but there's a reason why like there isn't that big of a sample size. It's look at the numbers. Like, you go 3 for 22 in those playoff games. Again, like, you are supposed to be one of the main focal points of that offense. And again, like, the sample size is small, but you can do yourself some favors by playing a little bit better. You probably increase the sample size that you would have, and then maybe prove some people wrong. So like that's what it's going to be. Is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., maybe Bo Bichette comes back, George Springer, are the guys that are supposed to be carrying your offense going to be able to do it when the lights are the brightest? A lot of people are doubting that. And again, we can provide all the numbers. We can talk about whatever you want. The only thing that's going to prove it to the people watching and to us is seeing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. do it on the baseball field. So a bunch more that we definitely want to go into, a ton more rest versus rust, kind of continuing the conversation that we had, and obviously a bunch more game talk that we want to get into. And we'll dive right into that after this short break. Today's episode is brought to you by Zippix Toothpicks. Whether you're looking for nicotine satisfaction or an energy boost, Zippix has you covered with their nicotine and caffeine-infused toothpicks. For nicotine users, Zippix provides a discreet way to satisfy cravings and the hand-to-mouth habit without vaping or smoking. Zippix can be a helpful tool as you work to reduce your dependence on vaping. Available in 6 great flavors with 2 milligrams and 3 milligram nicotine options. And if you need energy without the crash, their caffeine toothpicks are a game changer. We got a massive sponsorship package for the Zippix. I'm not a nicotine guy, but I've been loving their caffeine toothpicks. Like, I've been heavy on the 5-hour energy shots, but sometimes you don't need like that massive boost. Sometimes just a little thing that you need to kind of get you through the day, especially if it's like later on in the day. I don't want to be hammering a Red Bull at like 7 p.m. Sometimes just that little Zippix toothpick, a little bit extra caffeine, especially for my late night classes, helps me get over that edge. But if you guys are struggling with like a smoking addiction or a nicotine addiction, Zippix is a very good way to kind of help wean yourself off of it very discreetly, as the Zippix, like, you don't have the patch, you don't have any of those other options where it's a little bit more obvious as to what you are doing. So you can go to Zippix today and go to zippixtoothpicks.com, use code LOCKEDONMLB, use code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. That is code LOCKEDON. You must be 21 years of age or older to order. And warning, nicotine can be addictive. And that is zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. The promo code is locked on. I keep trying to say locked on MLB. The promo code is locked on.
A lot of them are locked on MLB. So
every other one is. That's why I keep trying to say it. But it's locked on for this Zippix one.
We'll give you the break on that. Carter, just something I want to get into. I didn't even throw this at you before because it sort of just came out, I guess, as if everybody's listening to this yesterday. I just wanted to give your quick thoughts on this one. Clayton Kershaw retirement after this season. Just a massive piece to all of baseball. I mean, to us growing up as kids, watching Kershaw, he's just a staple in the game, right? And seeing him go, that's going to be tough. It just turns out that Anze Kopitar as well in the NHL, he will retire after this next season.
Oh, I didn't see that one. Damn.
Yeah. So a lot of retirements coming down the line, big guy. And it's like all the guys we grew up watching. So it's just crazy.
Well, and maybe Max Scherzer's added to that list if the Toronto Blue Jays win a chip too. So that's another guy. Again, it's the childhood. It's starting to make us feel a little bit old. And like, I don't even want to say how old I am because people watching me be like, oh, you're young, you have lots of years, blah, blah, blah. But I get that. And it depends. It's all perspective. Like if I talk to, my mom was a daycare and there's some 12-year-olds that go there and they're like, oh, I'm 12 and I was born in 2012. And I'm like, what? Like how you should be 3 years old. How is it already 2025? But yeah, back into the baseball. I guess we'll dive into it here. Did you want to go into like the rest versus rust sort of thing, or do you want to I have some pitching stuff that we can go into, but again, I'll throw it over to you, whoever you want to dive into here.
I want to talk rest versus rust a little bit here because it's a big question on everybody's mind. I think a lot of fans is what is the better scenario, right? Do you want the team to go in on a good streak, keep it going, no break, right back to baseball? That wild card series, some people say, hey, maybe it's better. You see a lot of teams that climb up through the wild card that end up winning the World Series because they don't get that break, or they do go far because they don't have a break that sort of throws them off their game. Whereas others say that would be massive. Get these guys, away from the diamond for a day or two, get that breather and then get back into working. And this is where it comes down to me. This team, I think right now needs a break. They need the break. You heard Kevin Gausman say at one point, we're exhausted. Like we're tired. I think he was brought up, him and Vladdy. They're tired. And I get that. Also, Bo Bichette, Anthony Santander, figuring out what they're going to do pitching wise, right? Getting this bullpen some rest. I think there are a lot of things for this Blue Jays team specifically that would thrive with a break here from the wild card series. I think if they can miss that wild card series, I think that is absolutely massive for sure. Bo Bichette, like that might be the biggest one right now, but also obviously this bullpen and getting them some rest. And, hopefully some of these guys can refine themselves in that break, I think is going to be just a huge, huge aspect for this team.
When a lot of insiders or just like MLB fans talk about the rest versus rust perspective, I think a lot of it is just that, is perspective. It's like what you are viewing your team as and what your team needs are during that time. Because if you, for example, right now, like let's use the Cleveland Guardians because they've been on a win streak. Say they make the playoffs, they probably want to play in the wild card round. They probably want to continue playing baseball because they've been playing such a good brand of baseball. And all of their guys are bought in. All of their guys are on fire. So why would you want to, take time away from the team if things are going so well? So, and then say that happened, maybe this is all perspective. The Cleveland Guardians can't get a bye. But say like they went on this massive streak, they got this bye, and then they have a week, and then they get swept in the first series. The people say, oh, like the rest ruined them. They got cold, and then like they ruined the momentum. Like everything that they were working towards kind of got ruined there. But as for like the Blue Jays, and in terms of everything, again, I think it's all perspective. But for the Blue Jays specifically, I think the rest is like 100 times out of 100 going to be the one that you want to do. Because for one, I think one of the main things is that you look at the injuries on this team. You look at, again, you have the Kevin Gausman and Vladdy quotes. I didn't necessarily see that, but I think that's going to be obviously like the big picture of everyone on the Toronto Blue Jays, everyone in the MLB. Like 162 games is a long time. And a lot of these guys are playing pretty much every single day, especially these position players. So getting that rest and just that little break, it's not like it's 3 weeks. It's like 4 days. So it's not like the craziest thing of all time. I think they'll definitely be fine. And then at this point now, too, is that if you play a wild card series, especially with all the recent, stuff that they had to go through, all the recent just negativity that has been surrounded with this team and the wild card series, there's going to be even more negativity because you have to go on this massive losing streak at this point to find yourself in a wild card series. So again, you play the Rays, you probably lose the series against the Rays, you jump right back into it. It is a home playoff series probably, but the vibes are at an all-time low. You probably aren't playing very good baseball if you're playing in that wild card series. So there's so many things, especially for the Toronto Blue Jays, whether it's momentum, injuries, rest. So like there's so many different reasons that are pointing towards, hey, this team needs that bye desperately. If they don't get that bye, I hate to put this out there, but if they don't win the American League East at this point, I think it's a wild card bounce. I don't think they even win a playoff game because they're going to be so down in the dumps if somehow they make that wild card round. I don't think it's going to go very well whatsoever. And then you're going to be playing a team that's probably the Cleveland Guardians. Like the Red Sox don't look good. Like if I'm a Red Sox fan, I'm nervous right now.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. That's where I'm at. And we want to hear from you guys because this is a conversation that has been sort of brewing for a while that me and Carter have been throwing around. So we want to hear from you guys on the rest versus raw stuff. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff we got into today. So we want your guys' opinions on everything because, we're going to have some time here. Hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays do get that break and we can really dive into some of your guys' thoughts and opinions heading into the playoffs. And so it's going to be a fun time. We're going to have a lot of discussions that need to be had. But Carter, I did want to talk a little bit about the pitching today and Chris Bassitt specifically here because I have a little bit of a take on this. And I know a lot, looking at this game, looking at Chris Bassitt's stats, gives up 8 hits, only goes 4 1/3, gives up 3 runs, only gets 3 Ks. Everybody's going to go out there and say this was a terrible outing from Chris Bassitt. I don't think it was a terrible outing from Chris Bassitt. A lot of the contact and the hits that were gotten were very weak contact. Like, it's not like these guys were roping baseballs off of them. It just, they were coming off badly. And that's going to happen here and there with a pitcher like Chris Bassitt that induces a lot of weak contact. You're going to get bloopy hits. You're going to get those little shots that, pitter through the infield. It sucks. It sucks. Like, Chris Bassitt, to me, is not a playoff starter at this point because you can't let that happen. Hittable pitches in the playoffs could be sent to the absolute moon against really good baseball teams. So in that sense, I guess maybe it was a bad outing, but I don't know. I take the kind of contact away as well from this, not just that, I'm sitting here looking at the stats. No, I think it wasn't that horrendous of a day. I don't think it was good, but I don't think it was as horrendous as people are going to try to say.
Yeah, a couple plays that this defense makes. There's one specifically that Ernie Clement kind of misses. Like, it's a tough play. Like, he's diving at it, but it's a play that Ernie Clement traditionally makes and this defense traditionally makes. Like, that's one thing that when you're defensively advertised as good as the Toronto Blue Jays are, it's not expected, but it almost feels like it's expected. Because, like, you look at other teams, like, they're not going to make that play, but you have Ernie Clement or Andres Jimenez, who's normally there. It's almost expected, at least for me, for them to make that play. So, for me, with Chris Bassitt, I'm not fully like concrete on my playoff rotation, but there's specific aspects of it that I'm concrete on. Like for me, it's Kevin Gausman in game 1. Like, I'm concrete. I'm that for sure. Like, that's where we're at. And with this Chris Bassitt thing, this is the only other one where I'm not quite. I guess it's only Kevin Gausman. I'm really close as you can be. Trey Savage is my game 3. Like, I'm right there. He's my game 3 guy.
Yeah, Shane Bieber's your number 2.
Yes, pretty in this scenario, but that's not completely given. Max Scherzer goes out and maybe pitches 8 innings. I don't know. Like, it could get a little bit crazier. Okay. But Trey Savage goes short leash, Chris Bassitt. Like, that's what I want. Yep. And for that 3rd or 4th game, I want Trey Savage and Chris Bassitt coming out of the bullpen. I'm so set on that. I think that is absolutely electric. You get Trey Savage out there, you get the upside. If it goes really well, unbelievable. John Schneider looks like a genius. If it doesn't go that well, I'm assuming it's going to be probably a command thing because Trey Savage, again, does have the swing and miss stuff. You saw how good he was. Again, there's still stuff that can be decided, but I'm Trey Savage build. I'm all in. So what you do with Trey Savage now is if it doesn't necessarily go that well, you have Chris Bassitt that has shown he can be adaptable, come out in the 7th inning, the 9th inning. If you want him to be, the starting pitcher that he always has been, come out in the 1st, he can do that obviously as well. But that's where I'm at. I think I'm not as exactly sure if it's like a game 3 or a game 4 yet, but that's what I want in a playoff scenario is Trey Savage into Chris Bassitt.
To me, ideally, I think that would be your game 3. And I'm
like that better than Max Scherzer right now, but it depends what Max Scherzer does over the weekend.
I'll tell you exactly why that's where my head's at. Okay, so in this scenario, it's most likely I'll say it's a 1-1 split in the first 2 games. Just throwing that out there, right? You go into a Trey Savage short lease, Chris Bassitt. I'm 100% on board with you.
I love that. That just fires me up. Like,
that's exactly what I was thinking too. So thank you. You're on the same page. And then I think because that would give you ideally either it's a 2-1 series lead or a 1-1 or a 1-2.
Yeah.
And then who do you go to in that game 4? You flip it right over to Max Scherzer, a veteran that's been there before, probably a big game. And I think you go with him there.
If that game's tied, like at 1-1, you definitely could argue that the game 4, game 3 is definitely big because if you get up 2-1, like that's just a nice place to be. Yeah. But just in case, like you put more pressure on the game 4 game, things don't go well because you lose the game 4 game and you got Trey Savage and then maybe it doesn't go well. You're down 3-1. Like that's a tough hole to climb out of, right? And I guess it's a 5-game series in the ALDS, so that's not something we have to worry about. I'm already thinking ALCS, which is getting way ahead of the conversation. We're already talking playoffs. We're not even there yet. But as for the starting rotation, in that 5-game set, it's 1-1. Yeah, that second game, like if you want Trey Savage pitching his first playoff start in an elimination game.
Yeah,
Again, you don't want to put him in that scenario, but you kind of avoid that entire scenario if you put him in game 3. But now,
that's what I'm thinking.
Since we're running scenarios and we're talking about it, what if you lose both the first 2 games? Are you going Max Scherzer? Are you going Trey Savage? At that point, Trey Savage is going to have to throw an elimination game. But are you more comfortable throwing out a veteran guy?
I don't think it matters.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to win games anyway, right?
Yeah, throw out whoever you feel at that point, just because, yeah, you're climbing out of a hole. So, I'm going into this, especially with what most will hopefully be two home playoff games to start the series, that you'll at least be able to grab one of those at home. That's just where my head's at. Again, things could go bad.
Yeah, we're jumping the gun a little bit. Let's focus on making the playoffs first off. We're still not obviously guaranteed to do that, but the magic number over there is 3. 9 games left. The Toronto Blue Jays win 3 games, so they go 3-6. They are a playoff team, and then that's assuming the Guardians win out, which I don't know. I mean, crazier things have happened. They're probably not going to win out, but the Guardians look good, and I think I'd prefer if the Guardians made the playoffs over the Red Sox, because the Guardians don't scare me as much just looking at that roster. And it'd just be hilarious seeing the Red Sox miss the playoffs just because they're an American League East team. But yeah, that kind of goes over our, I guess, playoff starter early talk, kind of going into some scenarios, really running hypotheticals, drawing out some plays, just seeing how things might play out for the Toronto Blue Jays. But obviously, there's still 9 games to be played, and they are very important games, as we just did discuss in the first and second segment there. Ton more that we want to get into, and we will dive into a series preview against the Kansas City Royals after this break. Today's episode is also sponsored by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get into the action. Just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. So we talked about it on the podcast. We are recording this a little bit early, and we're trying to do it before the NFL game that is on tonight. We got the Bills and we got the Dolphins. I always say that I try to ride my fantasy team, like whoever I drafted my fantasy leagues into these games, because I'm watching them. I want my fantasy guys to perform. I do have Josh Allen, so I'm going more than half a rushing touchdown. They're playing the Dolphins as well. They haven't lost to the Dolphins in 9 games, so I got him more rushing yards as well. I think he's just going to be dominant on the ground, so I got some more than on Josh Allen. And then I think the Dolphins are going to be down, like I just said, so I got more than receiving yards on Tyreek Hill. So hopefully my fantasy teams can start out the week pretty hot, and then I can also make fun of Braden for absolutely cashing in on Prize Picks as well. And you can download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Today's episode brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugars and 0 crashes. That's a big one for me lately. You know what? It's the sugar in these energy drinks. It's the sugar in these coffees that I put in. And I guess I could go black coffee, but I don't really want to sit here and be drinking coffee constantly all day. I like the 5-Hour Energies. It's a good flavor. It's a taste. It's like the energy drink, better than an energy drink taste, honestly. And it doesn't got the sugar. So it really hits this every spot for me. And there's this blueberry flavor that Carter actually put me on to. Unbelievable. You can never go wrong with it, honestly. Great pick. Enough with boring flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get those flavors you love, or be bold and try something new in store or online today at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. So, Carter, a little series preview heading into the weekend. Royals, Jays, probably a series of this team at this point you want to see win. I don't know if it's a must win, but it's damn close.
I'm putting must win on this one. I think you got to take the series against the Royals. I think out of the 3 series you have, like I like our odds against the Red Sox. I think the Blue Jays play the Red Sox very well. Do not want to put it and leave it into the hands of the Tampa Bay Rays. So I would like to, get the momentum a little bit back here, especially splitting a series against the Rays and losing a little bit of ground in the standings. I think you got to win 2-1 here. The Yankees do end up sweeping, which they are good at beating bad teams. So I don't want to completely take that away from them. I just think you cover a lot more of your bases if you take 2 out of 3 games. Obviously, I don't care which ones they are. we can definitely make some predictions on which ones are more likely to work out for the Toronto Blue Jays than the other ones, just going over these pitching probables. Pretty fun weekend for the Toronto Blue Jays here. Max Scherzer and Clayton Kershaw night. So that's what I'm going to be having on both screens. That will be a fun one to watch. Max Scherzer versus Michael Lorenzen. Then on the Saturday, Shane Bieber versus Noah Cameron. I think that'll be the best pitching matchup. And then you do have Trey Savage versus Michael Wacha. That could be really good actually as well. So it's going to be a fun weekend. You see a lot of guys that are making their auditions to be playoff starters. I think Shane Bieber, for me at least, probably in there in some capacity. Don't know where necessarily, but every start means a lot for the front office, obviously the Toronto Blue Jays, and these players for what role they're going to carve out for themselves in these playoff scenarios that we've been rolling out, obviously, in the last 2 weeks of these podcasts. But Braden, are you looking for the 2 or 3 as well? And if you are, which game do you think the Toronto Blue Jays lose?
Yeah, it's definitely 2 of 3. And you know what? I want to almost put this. I think this could go any way. I really think that the Blue Jays could win or lose any game.
I think these are all going to be close.
But I do think that I'm going to go with the 2 guys that I think are pushing right now to solidify where and what they're going to do in this playoff. So I'm actually going with a game that I'm super excited to watch, and that's Shane Bieber. Anytime he's on the mound, I'm really pumped up. As much as I am excited for Max Scherzer, I think I'm way more excited to see the potential in game 2 and 3. So I'm going to give the Jays a game 2 and game 3 win as well. That first game, I think it's going to be a slide for the Blue Jays, which puts them at a 3-game losing streak. People are going to lose their minds a little bit.
Season's over mentality after that one.
Yeah, and then they're going to come back and win the last 2. That's just where my head's at on this one, at least.
Max Scherzer makes me a little bit nervous, but I think just looking at the pitching matchups, the Blue Jays should match up well against Michael Lorenzen. So I'm going to give him that win. I'm a little worried about Noah Cameron. I know this team has hit lefties pretty good this entire year. Ernie Clement should be very good. David Schneider's honestly been better against righties. The stats are the same. He's been very good against lefties as well. So you got some guys that I love throwing in against left-handed pitcher, but Noah Cameron, maybe, this guy won me, at least got me a berth to my semifinal matchup against Jim. I don't care what he does on Saturday. I'd rather it be a 1-0 game. The Jays just win, and you could carry over obviously the offensive curses, but I'm more than willing to sacrifice my fantasy team obviously for the Toronto Blue Jays. But I just think Noah Cameron, just based off what I've seen from him, whether he's on my fantasy team or not, might give the Toronto Blue Jays a little bit of trouble. And then you got Trey Savage. So excited for that, obviously. Football Sunday, Trey Savage, going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully he can build on what he is doing. Can't go against my boy Trey Savage, especially since I kind of just put him in as a shoe-in for the playoff rotation. But Braden, is there anything else that you want to add, or you want to quickly go over for the weekend series?
Nothing overly. I just want to see a bounce back a little bit from this offense, get the wheels turning again, the gears turning.
Give me a Trey Savage strikeout line. Give me innings and strikeouts. Give me Shane Bieber as well, actually.
I'll start with Savage. I'm gonna go 5 total innings again, and I'm going to give him 7 strikeouts this time. And then for Shane Bieber, I'm going to go 6 2/3 with 6 Ks.
See, I'm going to give him a flat 7 for Shane Bieber. I think he's just not going to strike anyone out, though. I'm going to give him 4 Ks. I think it's just going to be he's going to be gritty, and that's exactly what we're going to want to see from Shane Bieber. Trey Savage, man, do I want to see 9 innings, 27 strikeouts. That's what we're looking for Trey. No, realistically, I want it to be really good. I want this guy to be dominant again. I think he's set up to be dominant. I think he's in a very good spot to be very good against a lot of these KC hitters. Bobby Witt is going to be an interesting at-bat. See how he does deal with him specifically. But I like the 5 innings. The 7 strikeouts are pretty good too. I think the Royals, you guys can hold me accountable in the comment section. I don't think they strike out a whole lot, so I'm going to put it at 5. I'll just do a measly, for Trey Savage at least, 1 strikeout per inning. But yeah, hopefully those 2 games can go well for the Toronto Blue Jays. Like I said, I think that second game is just going to be a little bit of a pitcher's duel. But hopefully the Toronto Blue Jays can kind of put the magic number down to 3 and just sweep the Kansas City Royals. And hopefully, I think it's the Orioles this weekend. It's the Orioles or it's the White Sox, the Yankees. It's not a good team. Hopefully they can help us out a little bit over the weekend here as well. Thank you guys for watching, and we will be back with you guys again on Monday.